So this is a conference about big data and artificial intelligence and technology and change, and I am all in for all of that. I'm right there with you about the importance of this moment and the transformational change that is right on our doorstep. And yet, and I'll unpack this a little bit, I think in the midst of all of that, there is something that you and I need to be doing. There are things that we need to be doing. There are questions we need to be asking and answering that fall into a realm of what's not changing about business success, or at least not changing very fast. Are you interested in that? So you've heard a little bit about the spiel here. We work with organizations on things that matter. What you should know about me, if you don't, is that I'm a big company corporate refugee. I worked for Exxon for many years. In fact, somewhere along that pathway, I used to buy, and my team did, about $50 million a year and the sorts of things that many of you do. So I was there as a client, worked in a firm like yours as an executive. I've consulted in this industry for a dozen years or so now, written a couple of books. And as you've already heard, our deal is this: plan for the future, grow your business, make more money. I want to give you just a couple of pieces of information to show you what's not only possible, but what's actually happening in the AE space, in the AE environmental space right now today. I mean top firm performance. I'm then going to move into the 7 crucial questions that I believe you need to be asking, and that really importantly, this is what the top organizations are doing. So I'm trying to make a connection here between those questions and the results that the best of the best get. You with me? And then leave you with a couple of ideas about next steps. So let's talk about where we are right at this moment. So you've been hearing a lot about change. The whole conference in some ways is about change. And yet there's nothing really new about that. Change has been a part of the human condition since the very beginning. This quote is 2,500 years old. What's different about change today? Faster. But the pace of change is accelerating. Everybody sees that. Everybody agrees with that. We don't all agree on how fast it's moving, but some of us think that the pace of change is or may be accelerating exponentially. And you've heard other people from the stage say that. If we are accelerating at exponential pace, then, ladies and gentlemen, we are in for a ride. A real ride that has major implications about you and me and our business and our career. We happen to be the generation that's right here, right now, facing this transformational change. We're talking about, some people are talking about functional immortality, not in 300 years, but in 30. What I call the fast future, specifically because it keeps showing up faster than we thought it would. It keeps surprising us every day. I thought it was going to be here, but now I'm here. That was sort of the notion behind the book that I wrote right around the time that we were last together. And this is sort of what I think about. The future ain't what it used to be. Forget about the idea that the future is going to be really different from the past. That's passé. The future is going to be substantively different from what you think the future is going to be. Here's 2 observations I found in my fast future research work. Number 1, big change on the horizon or already here. Observation number 2, not very many people doing very much about it, particularly in the professions. Particularly in the professional services world, where we have such a tight hold on the status quo, because there's so much at stake for us as individuals and as groups to change the way we do. Because if you're a professional, then changing the way you do things is about changing who you are. And that's hard. But maybe the most important or enlightening observation to me is Well, in that tempest, what are the best organizations doing? And what I found is, well, they're certainly not spending all their time, and sometimes not very much time at all, trying to figure out and predict what the future is going to be. Instead, they're focusing on the things they can focus on, that they can control. That is, how do I build a resilient company, a team of people, an organization that can withstand and survive and then thrive in a variety of different future scenarios? Does that make sense? I don't know what's going to be out there, so I need to build something that's going to be successful if it's between here and here. That's what best companies are often doing. Big change, lack of action, big competitive opportunity. Now, you don't have to believe me, you don't have to agree, you don't have to do anything. Dr. Doehring addressed this more than 50 years ago, right? Change isn't necessary, survival's not mandatory. The significance of where we are right now, sort of my bottom line, the thing I would encourage you to all reflect on is simply this. We're moving way too slow. The top 25% today, right now, are making substantially more. You see the numbers, right? 23, 24, 27. And in fact, here's a good rule of thumb for you to be thinking about. In almost every segment, in almost every market segment, almost every geography, and almost every service discipline, the top firms, the top 25%, tend to make anywhere between half again more and twice as much as the median. That surprise anybody? You can see the number. You get the point? The best in class, the top shelf, the top firms are doing something different or something better. So, 7 crucial questions. What is it that we need to be asking and answering today, both in terms of improving performance in the short term, but also in terms of positioning our firm for the kind of success that will make us more resilient and more sustainable in the fast future ahead. Question number 1, why? Why do we exist? You may have heard Simon Sinek say this. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. How many people have heard that before? The question would be, how do you react to that? People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. I bet if I could have an individual conversation with a number of you would say, that doesn't make much sense to me. Let me tell you about my business. My customer doesn't care. They have to buy what we do. If this doesn't make sense to you, if you don't think that's not really true in our business. In our business, people just buy what we sell. They don't buy why we do it. If that is true for you, here's the deal. You're working with the wrong customers. If your clients don't care about why you do what you do, you're working with the wrong customers, and you can't get a 4 multiplier out of somebody who thinks you're exactly the same as everybody else, right? The trick here is answering the question why in a way that leads us to do something different. That is to go out and do business, not with everybody in the world, but with the kind of people that care about the things we care about. Look at these 2 questions. They are profoundly different from one another. What do we do to exist in the red? What do we do to keep the lights on, to pay the bills, to keep people busy and utilization up? The kind of stuff that probably makes up a fairly large part of the portfolio. And then what do we exist to do, right? The projects that really turn us on, that really fit our personal and our company mission. These things are profoundly different. And the best organizations are the ones that are focused more on black than they are on red. That can be a work in progress. That can take a while depending upon where you are. But the goal is to be very why focused. You don't need a mission statement. I'm not suggesting that you get 6 or 7 of you in a conference room and spend 3 or 4 hours trying to figure out whether the next word should be a the or an a. and you come up with something and you think, oh my gosh, it's exactly like the dentist down the street or the Quick Lube where I had my oil changed last week. You don't need a mission statement, but to be a super successful organization, you need a mission. So question number 1 is why? Got to work on that. Again, not because it's touchy-feely, not because it'll make people feel better, because we can make more money, because we can be more successful, because we can do more of the kinds of things we want. Question number 2, where? Where is it that we really want to go? What's our big destination? What's our vision, right? Why is that important? Because that's the way we are as humans. We envision what it is that we want, and then we try to figure out how to go after it. Nothing happens unless first a dream. You're familiar with the moonshot story. We don't get there without a really big, bold vision. NASA's full of engineers at the time. Every one of them had 100 reasons why it couldn't be done. Just solve the next problem, solve the next problem, and solve the next problem. That's how the human brain works. First you see and then you do, right? If we've all heard this idea, big, bold vision is important to success, then why is it when we try it in our firm, we come out with something like this? Premier company, quality solutions, on time and on budget, employer of choice. Nihil obstat, Latin for nothing objectionable. There's nothing objectionable up there at all. But it's not going to motivate anybody to do anything hard. Remember the Kennedy quote I just showed you? How many of you know the story of the sort of the next speech, right? The next speech was the one where Kennedy says, we choose to do these things not because they're easy, but because they're hard. I need something hard that will motivate all the people around us, get us all going in the same direction so that we can accomplish the thing we want to accomplish. And why did we need to go to the moon? Because it's there, yes, that's not really right, but thanks for playing. To beat the Russians and win in the big battle for hearts and minds all around the world. Can you do that with this? Now, having a sort of a big, bold statement is, and that's not one of them, that's not a bad idea, but what I think you need is big objectives. That is not just a picture of where we're headed, but a painting. Visceral details, strokes, textures, colors. We want to get this big, we're going to get this fast, we want to be in the top 20%, we want to open a bunch of offices, we want to earn revenue from all new clients. Now, hear me, I'm not saying that the only worthy vision is to grow and be big, but the only worthy vision is to be bold, to take on hard, because that's what motivates team. That's just some example. Why and where? The third piece that formed what I call the strategic framework. How? How do we compete? How do we really compete? What's the strategy question here? And there's a big difference between these two things. People in this room and in your organizations are very good and sort of lean into could've. We can do that. We can do that. We're problem solvers. That sounds fun. Let's try that. That's really different from should we do that? And most of you probably have a legacy in your business that's not super strategic. It's more opportunistic. Over time, we've stumbled into things, we've had opportunities, we've figured out how to do them, and we've become very good at that. But it's not strategic and intentional. It's reactive in a lot of situations. The answer to the question, should we do something, is always, it depends. It depends on something else. It depends on strategy. It depends on vision. You've got to wrestle with these and get more focused. Some of you may have seen this or know this. Porter's sort of generic business model. The simple idea here is I've got to think about my scope, my breadth. Am I going to be narrowly focused or really diverse and broadly focused? That's one question. The other question is, does my competitive advantage come from cost or from differentiation? Now, you can make a case for either side of that. You can have cost advantages that lead you to have a business model like Walmart or McDonald's does. You can have differentiation advantages, which leads you to business models like Starbucks or BMW or Nordstrom's. But if you try to do both, the theory here, right? If you try to do both, like probably at 75% of the people in the room, I got a little of this and a little of that, some high end, some low end, some big and some small, some stuff we make a lot of money and some stuff we don't make any money on. And what do I want to let go of? Nothing. If you try to do all of that, then you get stuck in the middle and your business is like Sears. Porter also said the essence of strategy is choosing not what to do, but what not to do. And I mean not in terms of let's stop doing some stuff that we're actually good at. That is extraordinarily hard. And I think I should honor this piece. Strategy is sort of a high-level concept. The way you decide, the way you actually accomplish not doing something in this industry is what? The way you stop in this business is by saying no to a single project. Now raise your hand if you're good at that. Mission, vision, strategy. Why, where, how? Those three big questions form the strategic framework and help top shelf firms to outcompete. Not because nobody else knows about that stuff, but because they work harder on it, they execute better around it, they get more clarity around it. And you could argue that the outcome or the output of doing a good job in all those areas is this next question, which is, are we all in this together? The question of alignment. Henry Mintzberg is a professor at McGill University. He said this: professional service firm, only place you can act like an entrepreneur, still get a paycheck from somebody else. So fundamentally, the challenge in many of our organizations here is that they were built on purpose with low alignment. They're built to optimize around projects, around teams, around individual talented people, decentralized, autonomous. They work pretty well in getting clients happy and getting projects out the door, yes. They work really a lot less well when you try to do something across the enterprise, something really big and bold and crazy, like try to get the logo to look the same in all the offices. That's super hard because we don't have alignment on the importance of those things at the enterprise level. So you can see what's happening here, right? Bunch of people pulling a dog out of an icy stream. My question to you is, how many meetings did they have before they got that? How did they decide who was going to be in charge? They just lined up and started doing it. In fact, you might argue, that's kind of dumb. What if I fall into the water? Should 5 of us be risking to save this one dog? They got alignment really, really quick. Why? Because the mission is clear and it's super important. The purpose of a corporation, the purpose of your organization, I believe, is fundamentally about bringing a group of people together so that they can do something important that none of them can do by themselves. Stop doing what everybody else is doing. And isn't that's a bit counterintuitive when you come to a trade conference, because you listen to what everybody else is doing, and your instinct is, that's a pretty good idea, let's do that. That's not what you're supposed to do. Strategy. Be different. I don't like paying a penny extra for toilet paper or toothpaste. I could care less what kind of green beans we have on the table, but I paid twice as much as I needed to for my car. Why? Doesn't make any sense. Well, these people convinced me quite effectively that I didn't need a car. I needed a driving machine. And importantly, very importantly from my perspective, they delivered on the promise. So they got me. So deciding, I think we already had one speaker go through this, right? Deciding to run a marathon was a big deal. Committing to the training program was a big deal. Doing it, finishing the whole thing, that's where the magic is. And you can be a successful business in both of these camps You can be a practice-centered business and be financially and quality successful. You can be a business-centered practice, same thing. I just wanted to share with you that almost every organization that I work with is wrestling with this stuff, and there's a strong trend. The strong trend is moving from or evolving from a practice-centered business to a business-centered practice, which is the way people in the industry talk about saying, I'd like to get a little more focus on the business, a little more glue around that, a little more business acumen, which is generally lacking. Re-engineering, remember a long, long time ago when re-engineering was a big word? It's a shame that it got away from us. Because I think it's quite ironic that in a firm that's full of engineers, all that engineering goes into engineering the client solutions. Very little of it goes into engineering a better business. Or why do we have trouble doing internal projects and getting them done and holding each other accountability when the firm is full of project managers? Number 7. Perhaps I think the most existential kind of question to ask, who's going to lead the firm tomorrow? If I roll that up, there are 120,000 or so AEC kind of professional organizations in the space today. I believe in the next 10 years we'll lose 50 to 60,000 of them. Primarily because they don't have a way to do leadership transition. The best time to develop the leaders in your firm would be a decade ago. But the second best time would be today, starting right now. I go into organizations, I go down to the C-suite in the corner office, and this is what they say. When are these kids going to step up? Sometimes those kids are 50, but never mind, you know? When is the next generation, whatever that means, principals, associates, brand new folks, when are they going to step up? Now, get up and walk down to the other end of the hall and talk to some of those people, and here's what they say. When are they going to give us a chance? Same firm. Later that afternoon, I sit down in a group interview with a half a dozen people in the room, all up-and-coming leaders, mostly with about 5 years of experience, people hand-selected by that same group of principals as representative of the best and brightest, the cream of the crop, the next generation. And one of the young ladies in that meeting says to me, and to all of her peers, this firm is crushing my soul. What kind of leaders do we really need for this future that's ahead? Lots of talk this week about that. Different skill sets, different perspectives, different thinking. Some people in the Crystal Ball Workshop heard my joke, so you ask a civil engineer what diversity means, he says a mechanical engineer. We need some poets in this industry. We need some tech people. We need some big thinkers. We need some change agents. We don't need to be looking out into the bullpen and saying to ourselves subconsciously, I don't see anybody out there that looks like me. The kind of people that are going to be successful on the road ahead. Remember, extraordinary leaders think and act differently. All right, a couple of thoughts to close up about next steps. So this is a bonus question. What is it that we need to do right now? And again, I think this is a skill that top firms have, their ability to say, what is it I need to do right now? What is it I need to do right now? You know, it's really interesting. Business is really messy and muddly and gray. And football is really, really clear and concise. In football, everybody knows what the rules are and what the regulations are and the penalties and the incentives, and the role descriptions are really high. You know, clarity in the whole football game is just what the mission is, what the vision is, right? You with me? That's football. Everybody knows everything, and yet they still have a meeting before every play, just to make sure that they know what they're doing and that they're going to be able to execute it. So what is it we need to do right now? The sense of urgency. Drucker once said, eventually all this has to turn into work. Got to make something happen. We talk about these things a lot. Almost nobody in the room has never heard this stuff, right? We talk about this stuff all the time. That doesn't count for anything. Forget about being perfect. This is a problem in general. It's a bigger problem for professionals. Instead, think like Patton did. Let's violently execute something right now. What am I trying to get done in the next 90 days? My back pocket business plan ebook sort of has this concept built in. What if everybody in the firm had a business plan or a business development plan or a personal plan in their back pocket, and we had that high level of accountability and discussion? Hey, how are you doing? Let's see it. Let's talk about it. Let's get together and work on our mission story, not our mission statement. Let's work on our mission story and get somebody from the outside with some different perspective, somebody can push to come help you with that. Same thing with a vision. What are we really trying to do? Get in a room and argue about that. Make a list of some of the things that you could get rid of, that you could stop doing. Maybe right now, maybe next year. Tom Peters used to talk about this all the time. Take all the manuals and go out and bury them in the backyard. Best piece of advice I've ever heard about action: when you come to a fork in the road, take it. Stop worrying about which way is the right way, just pick a way. What's really possible in your firm? What's really possible? This is a picture of Secretariat at the Belmont Stakes in 1973. You may remember the story. You may have actually heard a piece of it last night. At the finish line, he's winning going away. He's 30 lengths ahead of everybody else. How does that happen? Because horses don't run against the clock. They run against each other. Not that one. It is possible, theoretically, in your business to be too bold. I've just never seen it. So tell yourself, and your pragmatic, risk-averse, left-brain organization, I want to be unrealistic. Let me leave you then, real briefly, with this idea. So, many of you have, and some of you may have heard me say this before, what I call the technical paradigm. What I mean by that is your instincts, your background, your training, education, your experience, and your expertise always tells you and reminds you of this worldview that there is a right way and a wrong way to do things, right? There's a right way and a wrong way to do geotechnical engineering and the science and the things like that. And when we do it wrong, we know exactly what happens. Things fall down, things wear out, people get hurt, we get sued. Bad things happen when you do things wrong, so don't do anything wrong. Not in business. Wrong model for running a business. In business, you get credit for doing things, for trying, for being persistent, and for keep coming back and doing it again. Violently execute your plan, make it a little better next week. So in business, what I would suggest to you is that you have a different model. Baseball, here we are in Louisville. Baseball, in particular, the hitter in baseball could be good at hitting. What you do is you try, and you keep working on it, and you come up every 3 innings, and you do it again, and you fail a lot. Swing and a miss, strikeout, strikeout, strikeout. But in baseball, as a hitter, if you get it right 1 out of 3 times across your career, you go to the Hall of Fame. That's what you need to do. So I will leave you with this. I will wish each and every one of you lots and lots of strikeouts. Lots and lots of tries and misses. And hopefully a few really well hit balls. Thank you so much. Thank you.